So one of the things that made this song unique from a Heart standpoint is that Ann Wilson, who's normally the singer in everything, didn't sing this song. It was actually sung by Nancy. Hello, Robert John Hadfield here again from Audiomover, and I've got some cool vinyl to talk about today. Now, I do have the full album, and I also have several other singles from this album too, but this one particular song is unique enough and has an interesting enough story behind it that I wanted to just take a second and talk about this particular one. This is of course the band Heart and the song These Dreams. Now when they put this album out, this came off of their 8th studio album, and this was actually a real departure for them. They had, if you look at the stuff that they'd done before, they never quite glammed up the way they did. They really embraced full-on 80s everything. If you look at the album cover, I mean, it could have been Prince and the Revolution look. They had gone so far extreme. And if you look at the albums right before this one, Private Audition, I mean, look at the back cover of the album Private Audition. It was nothing like they look here. And then Passion Works was after that one. Private Audition, oh my gosh, that is my favorite Heart song of all of them. It's a song called Cities Burnin'. If you've never heard the song Cities Burnin' by Heart, you've got to go look it up. It's the first song on that album, Private Audition, and it is my favorite Heart song, probably by far. It's so good. Anyway, but this was a couple albums later, and they had really just absolutely changed everything about who they were. So much so that this song, they actually did something even different with the lead vocals. One of the things that made this song unique from a Heart standpoint is that Ann Wilson, who's normally the singer in everything, didn't sing this song. It was actually sung by Nancy. Ann and Nancy are sisters, of course. And Nancy, just generally speaking, is just the guitar player. And she's actually a really, really solid guitar player. Not necessarily playing leads, but from a rhythm standpoint, which if you ever listen to me ramble about the rhythm and lead guitar, a rhythm guitar player is frequently harder to come by than a good lead player. You got somebody like Pete Townsend that can just lay that rhythm down and do interesting, complex rhythms on a guitar. That's unique, and that's a powerful thing. Well, Nancy Wilson is a master at that. The one I was just talking about, Cities Burnin', go back and listen to that stuff. Listen to her acoustic guitar work on that song, and you'll know what I'm talking about. She's amazing. She's fantastic. And she actually, when you see if you ever go watch the Lincoln Center Honors, where they're honoring Led Zeppelin, and they do Stairway to Heaven, Ann and Nancy Wilson, they do this Stairway to Heaven together. And if you've never heard that, oh my gosh, you've got to hear that. And don't listen, there's one that's edited and it's slightly shorter. Don't find that one. Find the full-length version of them playing Stairway to Heaven. It is mind-blowingly powerful. I mean, you should never play the song Stairway to Heaven except when they did it. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. Anyway, so this was a departure, because rather than having Ann sing lead, this was, as far as I know, this was the first time that Nancy had ever sang lead vocals on a song. And you've heard this song before. These dreams go on when I close my eyes. Every second of the night I live another. You've heard the song before. Super powerful, very, very slow song. And she, as the story goes, she was sick while she sang this song. And if you listen to the first chorus where she goes, "Every moment I'm awake," you can actually hear her voice crack. I wrote down the time so you'd know where it was. Go find that song and go to 1 minute and 2 seconds in the song, and you'll hear her voice where you can tell that she's a little bit sick. And they made a joke later, because this song was so popular, that she should get sick more often to get that raspy sound in her voice, because she sounded so cool. But it was kind of a different thing for Heart to have her singing the song. The album, though, that this came off of was just self-titled Heart. That's all it was. And so because, their first album, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget what this is called. Their first album was called Dreamboat Annie. So they never had a self-titled album that was just called Heart. So this became it, and it was their 8th album. The album itself ended up selling something like, it was 4 million copies. It was huge. It was a massive success. And a lot of people attributed that success to kind of their changing their image and what have you to fit more of the 80s. I don't think that was what it was at all. I think, like a lot of the things I talk about on this channel, it was about the fact that they had good music. They had, and I didn't love these hit songs that they had, but they were great songs, obviously, because people loved them and they bought them, and it made them huge. They had five hit singles off of this album, and you've heard them before. What About Love? You've heard that song before. What about love? Don't you want someone to give it to you? Never. Never, no, never, that was off this album. Then of course this one is off this album. Then the song Nothing at All, 'cause it was nothing at all, like anything I'd planned before. And then the other one they had on this was If Looks Could Kill. If looks could kill, you'd be lying on the floor, you'd be begging me, please, please, baby, don't you hurt me no more. You've heard these songs before. The album had great songs that were going to sell, and that, in my opinion, is why this one succeeded so much. Now, the other thing that was interesting about this that helped make it popular was the fact that they didn't write these songs. And this one in particular is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this one out today, because of the people who actually wrote this song. So let's actually just flip it over. You can see it's the same graphic on the back as it was on the front. This is just pictures of them from that time period. This wasn't taken from like the album cover or anything like that. But let me pull this out so you can take a look. These Dreams right here. See if we've got that focused in here. So when you look down here at who wrote it, you'll see B. Toppin and M. Page. Any idea who we're talking about there? Well, M. Page is referring to a guy named Martin Page. Martin Page was a prolific songwriter, and he actually, as I understand it, you know the Ghostbusters theme? Played keyboards on the Ghostbusters theme. But the song that you would have heard that he was involved with writing is the song We Built This City by Starship, who was formerly Jefferson Starship, who was formerly Jefferson Airplane. We built this city, we built this... Anyway, he helped write that song. And then, so that's Martin Page, but B. Toppin, you know who B. Toppin is. That's Bernie Taupin. Bernie Taupin, Elton John's partner, songwriting partner. So almost everything, if not everything, probably not everything, but almost everything Elton John did, Bernie Taupin was the co-songwriter on that stuff. And so, and Bernie Taupin actually, I have in the record collection, he actually even put out one of his own albums. He may have done more, but I just have one of them. But so, these songs that were famous off of this album, and especially this one right here, this is a heavy hitter songwriting team that came in and wrote this song. Actually, from what I understand, they didn't write this originally for Heart. They wrote it for Stevie Nicks to sing, and Stevie Nicks just decided not to use it. So Heart picked it up. Nancy sang it, like I said a second ago, which made it kind of unusual, and it got huge hit. No joke, a few weeks ago I was in a store just doing some shopping, and I heard this song coming over the speakers. I mean, here we are, what did this come out, 80, oh shoot, I should have looked it up ahead of time. This is 86, I think, when this album came out. Let me see if it tells. Sorry, 85, came out in 85. Here we are, how many years later is that? 40 some years? Later, or yeah, right around 40 years later, this song is still getting attention. These Dreams, it was so big. Now, so anyway, this was a really big, anyway, really big deal. Heart had gone through a bunch of changes though, so just so you kind of know here, these two guys were not in the original band, but these three, the first band that you know of when Dreamboat Annie came out, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, Dreamboat Annie, and it had Magic Man, which everybody's heard, that song. I think that was the first song on their first album. These three were part of that. This guy is named Howard Leese, and he's the other guitar player, the lead guitar player. Of course, there's Ann Wilson, there's Nancy Wilson, and they were the sisters. So that was something that, from the early days, the band had changed a bunch over the years, but this is the one guy that stayed, and he stayed for quite a while even after this album. Now, the other thing that's kind of important about this is go to the producer. So it says produced and engineered by Ron Nevison. Now, this is kind of an important thing because Ron Nevison, I've talked in videos before about the importance of having a good producer. Well, this is an example of that. Ron Nevison, who produced this song, had worked with Jefferson Starship, Michael Schenker Group, Ozzy Osbourne of all people. I mean, and you just start going down the list, like Damn Yankees, Kiss, Survivor. Remember the album Vital Signs? There's a story in my eyes, turn the pages of desire. And when you recognize all these songs that he had done from a production standpoint, you start hearing consistency in these hit songs, that have this similar personality. But that's one of the reasons this stuff became so popular, is they had this guy that knew how to go in there and take these really good songs and turn them into hits. And this guy, like I said, his name is Ron Nevison. Now, there's another interesting connection here for me personally. Well, I mean, because I'm a fan of certain things. Ron Nevison also produced an album by a band called Shooting Star, and it was an album called Silent Scream. So the band was Shooting Star. The album was called Silent Scream. Now, I loved that record, and I was kind of a Shooting Star fan, but most people today wouldn't even know who they were. They had a song on that album called Summer Sun, which I just loved. Well, when Heart toured on this album, which was just the Heart self-titled album, Shooting Star opened up for them, and I was so excited. So I went and saw them on this tour, and Shooting Star opened up, and they were just, I mean, I loved them. And Ron Nevison had actually produced their record, and so probably one of the reasons that the bands toured together. And it's also interesting when you consider that Ron Nevison had worked with Jefferson Starship before, and then of course the songwriting connections here with Martin Page and what have you. Grace Slick and Mickey Thomas. Grace Slick and Mickey Thomas, not on this song, but they appeared as background vocals on this album. Now, one other thing about this song, I was not a fan of this song. It was a little bit, at least for me at the time, was a little bit too sappy. Over the years, as I've gotten older, I've kind of grown to appreciate kind of what a beautiful song this is. And the lyrics and the way it's produced, it's a very nice song. There's one really interesting thing from a production standpoint, and it happens about a minute and a half into the song. There is this part where she goes, I walk without a scratch through a stained glass wall. Well, right after she says that, there is we are familiar with call and response in songs where you'll sing something and then a group of people or another person will repeat it, kind of echo it. Well, they do the same thing in this song, but they flip it backwards. So what happens, and like I said, this happens about a minute and a half into the song. She sings the part, like I said, I walk without a cut through a stained glass wall, and right as she says that, you'll hear, weaker in my eyesight, and then she comes in with, weaker in my eyesight. I'm not doing it justice. You need to go listen to it. But what is happening there is it's a call and response, but backwards. So Ann Wilson comes in and says, weaker in my eyesight, in this kind of heavy reverb, subtle way. And then the response is actually the line in the song. So anyway, it's kind of like a call and response, but backwards. And I loved that. I may not have loved the song and loved all the production, but that piece of it was just kind of jumped out to me as being something so cool, where they did a backwards call and response. And so anyway, if you get a chance, it's cool to go listen to that. And like I said, it's about a minute and a half into the song. and you can hear this cool thing that they did from a production standpoint. But it's a testament to getting a lot of, you have the right people in the right places with the right talent. The right people writing the song, the right people singing it, the right producer, and you end up with something is wildly successful. And this album, Heart, the self-titled album Heart, was their biggest. I think it was their biggest album ever. I don't think they've outdone it before or after. And they were such a cool band, and a lot of us loved them just because it was these two women, and then you had this great guitar player and this great singer that could had this just awesome rock voice. You go back to that early stuff of Heart, not just Magic Man, but Barracuda. This was rock. This was powerful, intense rock and roll. And so a lot of us just loved it from that standpoint. So this was, where they kind of became more mainstream and lost a little bit of that edge. There was still great music in here, and it really just pushed him over the edge and made him huge. And so, and this was one of those songs, even though this was such a dramatic departure for Heart, it ended up selling, and it still is popular today. If you love these videos, or if you like them, or please comment, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. If you have other albums, we have so many of these things you'd like us to talk about. We'd love to hear your feedback. We've actually done a few that people have recommended, and we'll do more of them. And if you like what we do and you feel any interest in supporting what we do, just go to audiomover.com. If you have old audio and videotapes, send them in, and we'd love to convert them to digital for you. Or if you know somebody that has old audio and videotapes, tell them about us. Get on your Facebook page or whatever and just mention that we exist, and that if people have old audio and videotapes, that we're around, and we'd love to help them out with that stuff. So anyway, with that, have a fantastic day.